On the evening of May 26, 1817, 20-year-old Mary Ashford walked to the house of her young friend, Hannah Cox. Mary had worked selling dairy produce at the local market that day. She and her friend Hannah were likely excited about the evening to come. They had intended on going to a local dance held at the nearby Tyburn House Inn. Mary had gotten a new dress for the occasion, and the young woman changed into it before leaving for the dance with her friend that evening. It was said that both of the girls seemed to have a good time and had plenty of male admirers approach them through the evening. A 25-year-old bricklayer named Abraham Thornton seemed to garner most of Mary's attention that evening, though, and she was said to have spent much of the night in his company, while Hannah danced with a young man named Benjamin Carter. The four of them left the inn at around midnight after the dance ended. As they all began to head back towards their homes, Mary and Abraham split off from Hannah and Benjamin. Later on, at around 3:30 a.m., Mary was seen walking towards Hannah's house. After she arrived at Hannah's house, Mary took off her new dress and changed into her working clothes. She told Hannah she was leaving and that she had to be home in time before her uncle left for the market that morning. She then said goodbye to her friend, leaving at 4 a.m. Mary was seen by two more witnesses early that morning. One local man testified that he had seen Mary on Bell Lane at around 4:15 a.m. At 4:30 a.m., another local claimed to have seen Mary again on Bell Lane, walking hurriedly towards her home. Both witnesses noted that she had been alone at the time. At around 6 a.m. that morning, a worker passed a flooded gravel pit on Penn's Lane at a location that would be on the northern edge of what is known today as Pype Hayes Park. There he saw a woman's pile of clothes and a shoe with blood on it. He immediately went for help. He and other locals began to dredge the pit. They soon discovered the body of Mary Ashford in the water. Investigating the scene, two other local men discovered a pair of footprints leading to the pit in a field nearby. The newly tilled field revealed only one set of prints left the scene. Many people in the small town were aware that Mary had left the party with Abraham Thornton the night before. Authorities arrived at Thornton's house at 8 a.m. They claimed that he seemed to be in a state of shock after being told that Mary had been murdered, probably by strangulation, after being raped. Thornton told detectives, "I cannot believe she's murdered. Why, I was with her until 4 o'clock this morning." Thornton soon realized the gravity of the situation after he was taken into custody to be questioned. He was grilled by detectives, but his story did not change. According to Thornton, that after parting ways with the other couple, Mary and he had strolled to a nearby field, where he admitted they had had sex. After that, he said they talked for a bit before they walked towards Hannah's house, where Mary intended on changing out of her dress. Thornton said he waited for her to return for about 5 minutes, but after she did not come back out from her friend's house right away, he began his walk back home. During his return home, he was seen by and spoke to 3 different witnesses. Thornton was tried, but it was soon revealed in court that the time frame in which witnesses had spoken with Thornton and the time in which Mary had last been seen walking alone on Bell Lane made it impossible for Thornton to have committed the crime. The jury deliberated for less than 10 minutes before returning with a not guilty verdict. Theories that a traveling laborer may have assaulted her or that she had committed suicide were suggested, but despite this, many people wanted to lay the blame at Thornton. The anger directed at him was so intense he eventually fled the community, traveling to America to make a new life. The truth behind Mary Ashford's death was never discovered. "157 years later, on May 27, 1974, another 20-year-old woman was sexually assaulted and murdered with her body hastily hidden at the edge of Pype Hayes Park. Barbara Forrest had been out dancing with her boyfriend at local pubs on the evening of her death. At around midnight, Barbara's boyfriend had walked her to a bus stop in Colmore Circus before taking his own bus home on the other side of the city. He was the last known person to see the nurse alive. Barbara was not discovered for nearly a week. Her body was eventually found in a shallow ditch just a few feet from a busy road, covered with debris. The crime scene was only 500 yards from where her house was. Authorities found that she had been sexually assaulted before being strangled to death. A murder investigation was launched, and the local police force placed their best detectives on the case. Investigators were unable to find anyone that had seen her after her boyfriend had left her at the bus stop. While some believe that she had either been abducted before getting on the bus or that she had been given a lift by someone she knew, there was also the theory that the killer had attacked her after she stepped off the bus at her stop on Tyburn Road. With no solid leads, authorities had come to a dead end and even looked to the criminal underworld to get assistance on the case. Still, they were unable to come up with any clues. The lead detective warned women in the area to be on the guard, to not ignore the fact that there is someone about capable of doing something like this. Finally, someone did come forward and identified a car in the location of where Barbara's body was found in the early morning hours of May 28th. This and other clues led investigators to Michael Thornton, a co-worker of Barbara's at the children's home who lived on Chester Road. Thornton was charged with murder after giving a false alibi and having blood found on his trousers. He was put on trial, but just as in Mary Ashford's case, due to lack of evidence, Michael Thornton was deemed not guilty. Whoever was responsible for ending these women's short lives was never held accountable for their crimes. In the early morning hours of Tuesday, May 27th, the perpetrators ruthlessly attacked their young victims and hastily did away with their bodies. While the ones behind these crimes lived on, the mirror story of these two women's demise lives on as well, troubling those who try to make sense of it all. Whether a coincidence in time or the result of some mysterious plot, there has and likely will be no solution to these stories. The predators were never caught, and others of their kind undoubtedly walk among us today, forcing society into an uneasy acceptance of the hidden evil that lives among us. Although in its devastating wake we briefly search for answers, for justice, perhaps we've come to realize that some things dark have, and always will, live here. Nothing can be done to purge us completely from those who would consume and throw away a human being at the very first opportunity. We can only react after the damage is done, after the creature slips back below the surface. Perhaps scaring the children may be the only means of defense from a dark history that seems determined to repeat itself.